Hello lovelies, welcome back. We're carrying on with money stuff. Notice the lighting's really changed because suddenly the clouds have parted, the sun's come out, and as it's landing on the floor, that light is bouncing up, so we've got a bit of a weird, I look a bit ghosty today, don't I? Anyway, today it's all about my budget for 2024 and hopefully some help for you if you're maybe doing a bit of a budget, possibly for the first time ever, maybe, I don't know. So, from the outset, why budget? Why do I do a budget? Why do I have a budget every year? Well, because I'm a grown-up, and it's what grown-ups do. Quite simply, I need to know what's coming in and what's going out so that I can work out what therefore ought to be spare. Hopefully, or if what's going out is larger than what's coming in, to know that, well, I need to cut back on things. It's all about living within our means to make sure, A, we don't get into debt, B, to make sure we don't find ourselves in a situation where we really need something but we don't have any money for it. So for instance, in that last one I was saying about getting a new computer, and I'm going to say that's a need rather than a want by now, because it's work, it's my work, and I can't be spending the amount of hours I'm spending on it and for the income I'm generating from it. So yeah, it's all about knowing where you're at, knowing what you've got, so you can plan better, so you can adjust better, so you can avoid being in debt, so you can look after yourself when you need to. There's money there for you to look after your home, your car, your family, whatever it is. But also hopefully by budgeting, maybe being able to find a way to free up a bit of money in order to save, so that we can at a future point afford those big ticket items, whether it's a holiday of a lifetime, a new car, new fridge for me, washing machine last year, fridge this year. The only way you can save for those big things is to take a chunk. That's your money coming in. Is to take a chunk of that money that's coming in and set it aside to save up for those things. So I was mentioning this. Sorry, I'm a bit. I can't get comfy today. I'm not comfy. I was mentioning in the previous video how, you know what, this year is going to be silly expensive for me. Moving house is expensive. There's all the solicitors, agents, all of that stuff. Stamp duty. It's a tax in the UK. There's a tax when you buy a new property. What else? Stamp duty, agents, solicitors. Oh, survey. Paying for a survey. So there's all those costs associated. But also for me, I'm having to plan ahead to think I'm going to need to buy a fridge, a freezer, a washing machine, a cooker, a wardrobe, a chest of drawers, because all those things in this flat are fitted. They're actually integrated, so they won't come with me. You know what, it's a big lump, but it's okay because I'm planning for it. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that when I move into a new home I have to go, oh, I need a washing machine. I didn't think of that. Of course, I've been thinking ahead for a long time. Things like, my toaster has been broken for a year, and you know the little lever you press at the side that holds it down, and then when it's ready it pops up again. So that lever is held down at the moment by my cast iron pot lid. And I just have to stand over it and kind of like, can I smell the brownness on my toast yet? Oh, it smells brown. Take the lid off, up it comes. Oh, not quite, back. It's manageable, but it's really annoying. So I've been wanting to replace it for ages, but at the moment it sort of works, so I'm not replacing it because I know after the move I'm going to have much more important things to sort out, like a cooker, for example. My Hoover is broken, the handle is gaffer tape. It's usable. it's not great. And again, I haven't replaced it because all that focus for going to my new home and the things I will need to buy in the new home, excuse me. So that's why we budget. We budget because we might have a huge debt to pay off. We might have a credit card debt that's crazy high. We might have that big ticket item that we're saving up for, holiday, new home, whatever it is. But essentially it's just sensible, isn't it? It's sensible to live within your means, to know exactly what's coming in and exactly what's going out. Now for me and anyone else who is essentially self-employed, because that's what I am, it's a little bit trickier because we don't ever know quite how much is coming in. It's not like in a waged job where you know every month I'm going to have 2,500 coming in. You know, after tax, my take home is 2,500. So it's a little bit different for me because my income fluctuates, but obviously I've now got 6.5 coming up for 7 years since I've had a wage. The channel has grown. I've introduced the shop and other bits and sewing jobs for other people. So it's kind of grown and sort of plateaued in the last sort of 3 years or so. 2020 was a bit anomalous, you know, the pandemic. But over 21, 22 and 23, I can see a pattern. I can sort of average it. I know if I do this work, it ought to generate X amount. So I've got a fair idea. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But essentially this is for anyone, especially for those who have a fixed pay packet. You know, you're paid once a month, you paid 2.5 grand. Okay, so I was just looking at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. So I know maths, numbers, etc. terrify some people. I get it. I get that, and I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. If that's how you are, that's how you are. Maybe get a friend to help you. But I would say that when it comes to your household budget and your own finances, bite the bullet and deal with it. Try not to stick your head in the sand. Try not to, ignoring things doesn't make them go away. Get to know your own money. Get to know what you're up to. So the first thing I would suggest, and this is what I did in my week between Christmas and New Year, I do it every year, is I get all my paperwork out. Mine's quite rationalised because I've been doing it this way for so long. It's kind of a little system I have now. Pretty much within about 2-3 hours, I'm done. I've got my budget for the whole year. In fact, it might even have been a bit less time this year. Gather all your paperwork together, whether it's bills, statements, you might need to check online. You might have some stuff that's you only do it online, so you're going to need a pad of paper with you when you're at it. But get all that paperwork stuff together. And also, this is a really great time to go through your paperwork to decide, actually, is that document so old it's now irrelevant? Get it shredded. Generally, with your household bills, you probably only need a year's worth of household bills. There are some documents, obviously, there are some documents you want to keep for 10, 15, whatever years. Like obviously the lease for this property. Let's not talk about the lease, I still don't have it back yet. But yeah, get all your bits and bobs together, or even things like your insurance documents for your warranties, or just get it all together. And then you're going to make 2 lists. One list is for the stuff that you pay for every single month. I'm going to give examples now as well to prompt you. And then there's another list of things that you only pay for annually, as in you pay once a year and it covers you for the whole year, as opposed to paying every single month for something, month in, month out. So for example, this is my list. So in my annual list, I have my allotment and seeds. So I pay a fee. That's my rent for the allotment, and a sort of an allocation for seeds. I give myself a budget for the seeds. Ground rent. So I rent the land that the property sits on. So I own my flat, but I don't own the land it sits on. So I pay rent to sit here. Also a service charge for that. I pay buildings insurance. So we all the people who live here, there are 3 of us who live here, we contribute to the insurance for the building itself. Then of course a personal one is my contents insurance. I have a fee that I pay every year for my website so that I can have a shop on it. There's a lot of websites out there that you can use for free. Mine is WordPress. It's free until you put a shop in there, and then you start having to pay. So it's like my shop rent. Oh, and my domain name. My PC office. So I have what do you call it? You know, like the Office package. So I've got my spreadsheets, my Excel, that kind of thing. That's an annual fee. The antivirus software, that's an annual fee. And that's what I mean about there are all sorts of things we pay for over the year, and some of them we just completely forget. And then we suddenly get an email and it says your antivirus software subscription is due for renewal next week, and it's, 120 quid or whatever, and you think, oh, I've completely forgotten that. I've got to find 120 quid for next week. So that's what I mean about, maybe on your computer where you've got your emails, do you have a folder for bills on your, check that as well, just because of those. Or think about your whole life. What does it cost to run your life for the year? So yeah, my antivirus, my PO box, my boiler, I put a fee in there every year to have it serviced. That makes sense because it keeps the boiler in warranty. I think I've got another 2 or 3 years of the warranty left because I've kept it in service. And that's great when I come to sell my property to say, that boiler is under warranty. Oh, and by the way, here's my boiler guy. He's brilliant. He'll see you right. So you've got all your annual costs. Oh, and I added just at the bottom here, because I know it will, for a lot of you, car, insurance, MOT, tax. I don't know if there are any other annual costs associated with a car. You're going to have your own that are different to mine. You might not have allotment and seeds on your annual bills, and you might think, oh well, what about my back garden at home, for maybe I could put a bit in for that, just for buying plants throughout the year. Well, you could. I would say that's more of a want than a need. I've included the allotment and seeds because that's my food supply. That's not a want, that's a need. So you may have completely different things, whatever it is. So get all of that together, get it all written down, and then this is the other thing I do. So at this point in the year, a lot of things, so these come at all different times in the year. I have a flurry of bills in January, I have another little flurry in March, then a gap, and then there's a flurry in June, July, then there's a gap, and then there's a flurry in October. You see, I know my finances very well. Sorry, I lost my train of thought then. Yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter. That's it, yes. So, all of these last year, some of them went up in price a bit, some of them didn't. Actually, a couple of things came down ever so slightly. Woohoo! So what I do now in this kind of Christmas to New Year period, obviously we're now into the new year, but what I did whilst I was, hunkering down last week at home, I've done all this, I've got my numbers, and then what I've done is I've added 5% to everything. Now it may be that some things go up this year by 6-7%. I mean, I had one thing last year went up by 20%, I changed provider. Some things actually stayed the same, but for me on such a tight budget, I hope that adding 5% each year keeps me in line with any rising costs. So I then put all my figures down. Now, I didn't do any figures on here because everyone's figures are going to be different. But just as a for example, and I've used a round number to make the maths easier, because I don't want to terrify any of you maths phobics, because I know people are genuinely math phobic. I've added them all up. I've given myself a figure of £2,400 for everything for the year. I've divided that by 12 months of the year, of course. So I don't mean any of this patronisingly, but some people will this will blow their head and hurt it. So I've divided it by 12 to represent a monthly payment, if you like, that equates to £200 a month. Now, I can't pay any of these people monthly. They won't accept monthly payments, and actually sometimes monthly payments works out more expensive, so it's cheaper to pay it as a one-off. But my whole list of annual stuff, how am I going to do £200 a month, a little bit to each of them? It doesn't work out. I'm going to get a bill in March. I can't pay them a little bit in January, February, March, April, May, June. You get the point. So that £200 I account for in my monthly expenditures, but it actually goes to a savings account. It goes to a savings account that has interest, obviously, so I accrue little bits of interest as well. So what it means is every month, out of my income, I take £200 out straight away and put it into my annual bill fund. And that means, so for instance, I've got quite a few. I actually need to sit down and do them in the next couple of days. That chunk of January bills that I'm expecting, I think it's about £750 to pay out in January. Because I've been doing, there it is in my monthly bit, because I've been doing £200 a month for the last 12 months and bits have come and gone, as I go into January, my account actually has £826 in it. Yes, and where a couple of things were cheaper. So I've got £826 sitting in a separate savings account that's had a bit of interest, and that's ready to pay my £750 of my big January bills, my ground rent, my service charge, they're big ones. Great. If I didn't do it this way, if I didn't budget, that's the whole point, isn't it? If I didn't do that, I'd suddenly be like, oh my God, I've got 750 quid's worth of bills to pay this month. Oh, where am I going to get it? And then in February, I might think, yay, no bills to pay this month, holiday. No, spread it throughout the year. That's what I mean. Get all the information together and know exactly how much money you need to run your life, to run your house, to run your life for an entire year. And then you can divvy it out. So that goes into my, I've got a savings account for that. Monthly now. So they're a bit more obvious, aren't they? The things we pay monthly: gas, electricity, water, council tax, internet service provider, telephone, charity if you do a charity contribution, national insurance contributions. So in the UK, that's the contribution we make that goes into the pot that pays for our NHS. Yay, good old NHS. Oh, and for your pension. And someone made a really snarky comment to me last year about it. It's like, actually, no, my pension, I've paid as much as I need. You pay 35 years. And then after that, it doesn't matter how much I pay into my pension pot, I won't get any more money. This is the state pension, I should say. You know, I could add £1,000 every year from now until retirement age. I would not get any more money because I'm already at the top of what I can get from the state. So that is national insurance contributions, that's for the NHS, benefits and that sort of thing. And then of course at the bottom my annuals, which is that column again, 200. So they don't all stay in the same bank account, because as I've just mentioned, this annuals goes into a savings account, but I have a separate bank. I have my current account, which is it's my 35 quid a week that I live on, current account. And alongside it, I have 2 savings accounts. One that my monthly bills money sits in, and one that my annuals bills money sits in. So as soon as my income comes in, I divvy it out. £200 goes into the monthly into the annuals. It's not actually 200. I was just using that as a figure for ease of demonstration. But yeah, I have my monthly bills sit in one account, my annual bill sits in another, and what's left, my allowance that I allow myself of 35 quid a week, sits in my current account. So hopefully that is clear as mud to everybody. Hang on, another slurp. So the bottom line with it, and I'm going to flip the page now to show you for me. Oh, and sorry, on the monthly, of course, rent or mortgage, you know, I was going to say I'm really lucky. I'm not lucky, I worked hard. I paid my mortgage off. And that's not to say that people who haven't paid their mortgage off yet don't work hard, of course. But what I mean is I made that a priority. I went without holidays and things like that in order to pay off my mortgage. So that's a general overview that I think this one is the really, really important one, the annuals one, because I think that's the bit that can take folk by surprise, because we do forget. I mean, that one, the office package for the computer, I forget that almost every year. The other things, I always have that thing of, oh, I know it's coming up in June. But literally every year, and I did it again this year, I get an email that says your office subscription is due for renewal, and I go, oh, I always forget that. And I think it's like 80 quid or something. It's, you know, it's like a chunk of money. But even though I have forgotten it in that moment, I haven't forgotten it on here, so it's in that little savings account ready for me to use. So now, just to talk on a much more personal note, because I know people are always a bit like, don't how you manage, how you doing, you're pulling rabbits out of hats here. And to reiterate something I said in that previous video, I don't see myself as a person who goes without. I don't go without. I have everything that I need, and I have my happy little life. Undoubtedly, I have been saving really hard for the last 4 or 5 years, really hard. Obviously, I had to pay a chunk out, I had to pay thousands out for the lease, and that stripped me entirely of all my savings. It was all gone, getting that sorted. And since then, so it's 3 years now, I've been every spare penny over and above my immediate needs has been going into savings. And this is what I mean about when you're doing your budget and having clear goals. I have an incredibly clear goal. I need to move house, and when I move, there will be things I need to buy. And I don't have anyone to borrow money from, I don't have anyone to ask, I don't have anyone to fall back on other than me. So I have to do it, must do it for myself. I hope, like I said, I don't feel like I go without, even though I obviously do. What I hope is that once I've moved, one of the issues is I don't know how much I'm going to need to spend when I move. I don't know how much, you know, I might be able to pick up a second-hand washing machine for 50 quid. I might be able to buy a second-hand wardrobe for 20 quid. I might get one on Free Cycle, yay! On the other hand, I might end up having to spend 200 or 300 on that. So because I don't know what I'm going to need to spend, I'm just saving everything. And what I'm hoping is that once I've moved and once I've furnished my new home and I've got everything I need, then I can relax a little bit on the saving, and I can have a few more treats, or, you know, a few more days out here and there. I will always have a savings fund. For example, I have a totally separate savings fund from everything else that is just for computer, camera and sewing machine, so that if any of them break, I can get them replaced straight away because they are what I use to generate my income. I have to safeguard my income. So yeah, biting the bullet, getting a new computer, hate spending money on something so boring, but that's what that money has been saved for. So, you know, likewise, when the washing machine broke last year, I was able to replace it straight away because I have that emergency fund. So I've got an emergency fund for my equipment, computer, camera, sewing machine. I've also got an emergency house fund for if I had to get a plumber in, if my boiler conks out, if a washing machine breaks. So there's no two ways about it. I save hard. I do on very, very little. So this is going to be possibly a bit too extreme for most people, but you can just extrapolate it up for yourself. So I reckon, let's say, it's really very simple. Let's say we have an average month. My average income is £600 a month. My monthly outgoings, so that's all those bills we just talked about, including the chunk for annual stuff, is £350, and I give myself £150 a month to live on. That's the £35 a week. That includes the food, clothes, travel, buying stuff for the shop, postage, what have you. And that leaves me with £100 to put into savings. Now, I know the vast majority of people would say, you're living on 150 quid a month, you're mad. Give yourself that 100, live on 250 a month, for goodness sakes, Vivi. But then there's no savings. What do I fall back on when there's an emergency, when something breaks? How do I furnish a new home? How am I going to furnish a new home if I don't have any savings? Am I just going to sleep on the floor? No, actually, I've got a bed. But otherwise, how am I going to get a cooker? How am I going to get all that stuff unless I save? I'm not going to ask. Certainly not going to ask you all to furnish my new home. Goodness me. That's why I save, and I save hard. And let's say I have a really good month and I get £800 coming in because it's been a good month on YouTube. I've done 3 different sewing jobs I've fitted in, and I've had a good month with my little shop. Or it might be even higher than that if it's a lavender bag. If it's lavender bag season, it doesn't matter. Whatever is over and above 500 goes into savings. And that's how someone on this crazy low income of £8,000 and even less sometimes can end up with £2,500 in savings at the end of the year. I mean, it seems utterly insane, doesn't it? And it kind of is. When I think about it sometimes, it is insane. But that's sheer willpower and discipline. So it's like I always say to people, listen, if I can generate savings in my savings account, if I can buy a washing machine at the drop of a hat and a computer at the drop of a hat, I hate doing it, but there we go. If I can do that, I think pretty much anyone and everyone can. But like I said, I'm extreme. I'm really, really extreme. And some of you may say, well, actually, I simply cannot do without a holiday each year. Fine, you know, it's your money. I'm not going to tell you what to do with it. Someone else may say, I simply can't do without a takeaway coffee every day on my way to work. Well, you probably could. That's the truth of it. Make your coffee at home and use a takeaway cup. It doesn't matter though, if you're buying a takeaway coffee every day on your way to work, it doesn't matter if you're still living within your means, so long as you're not going into debt. And that's what I mean. If you might be earning 3, 4, 5 grand a month, so you don't notice, it doesn't affect you buying a coffee every day. But then again, I think my videos are aimed at folk with a much, much smaller income, who are, you are maybe trying to pay off some debt, that horrid credit card that's hanging around your neck. Can you get a 0% balance transfer and really work hard this year to, pay down that debt? I know there's loads of folks who dream of living mortgage free. Again, can you kind of go without a few of your luxuries, your takeaway coffees? And look, going without a takeaway coffee every day is not going to pay your mortgage off in 1 year. Of course it's not. But the action of not having the takeaway coffee, the knock-on to other areas, may help you to pay off a big chunk of it. Now, the other thing to say, because I'm banging on and on and on about like putting all that money into savings, and it's crazy that someone on such a low income as me can end up with $2,000 or whatever in savings at the end of the year. This is the other thing I've done over this last week again when I do all my finances. I've done another shop around for savings accounts, and I've moved, so far I've moved 3 of my, I've got 5 savings accounts. It just makes life clearer for me, you know. It's like my kit, my emergencies at home. I've got a savings account now that's purely for, I've got them written down, hang on, because I can't remember them off the top of my head, that's why I have the list. I've got one savings account that's for stamp duty and estate agents, one savings account that's for doing up this flat and buying furniture at my new home, and another savings account for solicitor and surveys and other costs, plus my other 2. Anyway, so what I've done is I've actually moved 3 of my savings accounts to much better rates, and actually all 3 of them, are within that, they're within the same bank. So it's really quick and easy to do. I just did it all online. And it's a difference between going from, I can't see my accounts are down there, but all my accounts were hovering around about 1.65%. They're now all around the 4.5 to 5% mark. So that's a really, really worthwhile thing. I spent best part of a day doing that. I had a really good look around, but you know, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference, but it makes a bit of difference. And when you don't have much money, you really, really, really need to make every single penny work hard for you. Because like I said, by the end of this year, I won't have a penny. Again, there'll be nothing, but I'll be in my new home and I'll be okay. And I can start saving again. So monitor yourself. I've written on my notes here storage. Why is that? Why have I written storage? Yes. I've ring-fenced, or I've kind of made a note, I haven't properly ring-fenced it at the moment, on my annuals that then sit into monthlies. I've done a guesstimate in case I need to pay for some storage here before I move, when I'm trying to, present the flat in its best possible way. There's a load of stuff I want to get out of the way, so it might be that I have storage costs this year, which I've never had. But I've kind of done that in brackets. Not sure if I will need that yet. But that's the other thing, isn't it? When you're doing your working out your annuals, think ahead. There might be a new annual to add in there, or there might be some to come off. You might have had a storage unit for ages and you finally cleared it out so you don't have that bill anymore. Yay, good on you. Lastly, excuse me, like I said, I am aware that I'm extreme, and we're all different. You do it the way that best suits you. I am so extreme because I don't want to worry about things in the future. If something goes wrong, I want to be able to fix it and sort it. I don't want to have to, like when the washing machine broke, I didn't want to have to be going to the laundrette every week. It's time consuming. But likewise, I don't have, like I was saying the other day about family, I don't have any family to ask. oh, can you lend me 500 quid to get a new washing machine? There's no one to ask. And anyway, so that's part of why I'm so extreme, is that there's not a lot coming in the first place, and I have to really, really, really stretch every penny of that. If, having thought about all this, do your budget, and if, sorry, if, let's say, you know, over the next couple of months, say by the end of March, you think to yourself, you know, I'm still getting to the end of the month and I've got no money. What's going on? Vivi didn't help at all. Keep a journal. Literally every single penny or pound, round it up, whatever, journal it. See where your money's going. Because if, having done the budget, you think, in theory, I should have £300 every month that's extraneous, as in it's not for food, it's not for transport, or you might have a travel card in your monthlies. It's not going any on my bill. You know, I've paid my bills, I've paid my mortgage, I've bought all my food, I've done all that. I should have £300 at the end of the month left over every month for fun. But yeah, I get to the end of the month and there's nothing. Where's that £300 going? Yeah, so journal for a month or so, maybe journal for a couple of months, and be really honest and strict with yourself. Literally every cup of coffee. It's so easy these days, isn't it? I see people with their phones tapping. It's not like you're spending, you're just tapping your phone. But yeah, monitor yourself. Write down every single penny, pound, whatever you spend, so that you can really see where you're spending. And you might at the end of the month think, wow, I've spent £300 on coffees and magazines and takeaway meals on a Friday night. And you might think, but actually I really enjoyed it all. So you know what, I'm going to carry on doing it. That's fine. That's the whole point, isn't it? If you think about it, you think, but I really like those things, carry on doing it. But on the other hand, if you need to save for something, if you want to save for something, those are the areas you need to look at to kind of pull back on a bit in order to save for that other thing that you do need or really want. Do you want a really fantastic holiday more than you want your takeaway coffee every day? Think on it. Anyway, all right, lovelies, I think that's more than enough for today. I will see you, before too long. Not sure what we'll be up to. I really want to spend some time in the garden with you all, but it's been so drizzly. The last few times I've been there, it's been miserable. I mean, I'm doing boring work anyway. I just like to get you out. I want to get you all outside. Now, go on, off you go. Go out and play outside. So hopefully we'll get some dry days at some point, so I can bring you to the garden with me whenever I'm next down there on a dry day. We'll do that. Otherwise, we'll do something indoors again. But until then, never mind all that. Look, happy finances for 2024, everybody. Don't ignore them. Don't pretend they're not there. Even if you hate the thought, get all your paperwork out, get on it. You know, old accounts, defunct stuff, get things shredded and chucked out. Lift the literal weight of all of that. Get things in order. Get your bills in order, however you want to order them, alphabetically, whatever it is. Know exactly where you stand today so that you can plan for tomorrow. Until the next one, lovelies, cheerio. Oh, and happy totting up. Cheerio, lovelies.